It's Wednesday at BraveNewCoin. Let's take a look at some DeFi charts on the weekly DeFi review. Now, I don't think Sol, Dot, AVAX, or Phantom are necessarily DeFi related. Maybe they're DeFi adjacent. I don't know. They're layer one things that aren't the main coins. We'll put them in the video. People will want to hear about it anyway. I'm looking at these on the 4 hour because they've all moved super quickly. And it's kind of pretty conclusive for most of these. I mean, Dot looks okay. Phantom and Sol probably the closest price-wise as far as trend is concerned. Anytime anything drifts into the cloud after being above the cloud for multiple days, in this case since August on the 4 hour, above the 200 period moving average since August, things are certainly slowing to a degree. Now, you wouldn't be able to point to this chart and say, man, the network was down for 12 hours or whatever it was yesterday. You'd have no clue. The traders don't care. That as long as the trading sardines are functional, that's all that really matters. At the end of the day, this could be nasty looking head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder. But otherwise, if this thing recrosses bullish on the 4 hour, it's probably good to go for more at this point, which is probably the more likely case if everything else around it is bullish. Dot looks okay on the 4 hour. It doesn't look bearish by any means. It's above the cloud, above the 200. Had this crazy bounce, crazy V bottom. At this point, all the other DeFi stuff I'm going to talk about, to me, looks better than this, in that it's at least setting up for a bigger move. It's hard for me to fathom. These have had, 5x moves or less, right? So at what point do you say, does AVAX have another 5x move in it? Or does any of the DeFi coins have some moves left in them? Does even BTC have a 2x left in it this year? Does ETH have a 2x, 5x left in it this year? I think those are serious conversations people are having with themselves, and they have them subconsciously, unconsciously, whatever, as they rotate in and out of stuff. Like this looks fine, right? You could argue cup and handle, you could argue micro cup and handle here. But if the party's happening on the majors or DeFi, then I think this stuff's going to slow down. Phantom, I already mentioned, looks like Solana. You know, it's slowing, but it slowed here and went for another run. So you're watching for a bullish TK cross above the cloud, then it's go time. Pretty simple. Phantom probably better positioned for multiples up here because it's below $2. I mean, these other dots 36, Solana's 160, AVAX is 52. Those are just going to have a hard time because of integer bias going up, regardless of what the market cap of Phantom is in the billions. I don't even know, but people are just going to see this and say, oh, it's below $10, right? Let's move on to the DeFi native coins here. DeFi perp is looking better and better every day. And in general, going to October 15th, we'll know fairly certainly whether or not we're going to maintain this bullish continuation into Q4. Thus far, it's setting up for what I think is going to be a pretty crazy Q4 across the board. And it's giving you signals to position accordingly, or at least be prepared, right? Like how you trade is up to you. I don't really care. But as long as people have a plan, know what they're doing, that's kind of the bigger issue. Because you don't want to be FOMOing into this stuff in November, December, when it was telling you in October that, yeah, this is looking pretty good. And it's telling you even right now in September, that's looking pretty good. Like, can this thing head and shoulders and pull back and whatever? Yeah, but based on trend, we were bullish in January to May, pulled back, and now we're bullish again. So the signs of bullish continuation are here right now. Biggest issue I think ETH is going to have is gas prices. Gas prices need to stay, really, ideally, sub 85 in order for people to want to use DeFi and not get lured by the siren song of other layer ones with cheaper fees, right? Fees have to stay lower for people to actually use this stuff. So I'd keep a close eye on fees over the next couple of months on ETH. Start with the exchanges, the DEXs, Uni. Now all these charts look varying degrees of, just sideways nothingness, but that's perfect because that's what you want to see. You want to see everything zeroed out, momentum zeroed out, neutrality across the board. You want to see us close and tight to the MAs on high time frames. You want to see us in the VPVR scrum. All this is fine, right? This is exactly the boring banality that I look for when we're starting a trend, because this is your best shot at getting a decent entry before things potentially 2, 5, 10x, right? Solana looked just like this on the daily on all these charts, right? All these charts I'm about to show you, Solana looked very similar and it exploded. I'm not saying that all these charts are going to explode. I'm just saying, like, look, the table is set here. The fork is in the right spot. I forget if it's the left or the right. The napkins are folded. Okay. Dinner's about to be served here in Q4 for anybody paying attention to this stuff. So yeah, this looks like a bunch of nothing, right? But into October, we will know if Uni is above 30 in October, it's game on. I like 100 at that point for Uni into Q4. Sushi a little later in October. What I'm watching here is the cloud. If the cloud is already green right now, that tells me, okay, October 15th. If the cloud is waiting to turn green, probably a little later in October. But the trend is reflipping on a lot of these. For sushi, anything mid-October above 16, I like 50. Just some round number. You could always measure this from high to low and then say, all right, what's the 2x multiple of 22 to 6? I like 50. Just simple. Curve actually has moved early. It moved today. It's already above the cloud. So the cloud is flipping today. This thing has kind of done a bunch of nothing historically. It went flat in February and has been flat for quite some time. So maybe now with emissions lower, Curve will finally have a run to the upside. And by the way, against ETH, all these charts look either bull divvy or bottomy. We're talking multi-month bull divs at this point against ETH. So I think BTC and ETH will do well, but I also think DeFi will outperform even ETH into Q4. So Curve's looking good for bullish continuation. Balancer, another one of these later rotation trades probably. If you want to min-max this to the highest degree, you're already into some of this stuff and just watching things like Balancer and waiting for prices above 30 into like November, or you are setting your allocations based on things that already look good now. Curve looks good to me now. Sushi's getting there. Uni's getting there. BAL is going to be probably a late rotation based on the cloud, based on where price is now. It's going to take some time to get through the cloud. BNT, very similar to Balancer, so I'd put that in the same allocation bucket as far as waiting for this thing into November even. Aave, Comp, Maker, SNX, to me are all very similar in the same boat. Maker probably the biggest laggard. Again, that one probably moves into November. Comp probably moves early November, late October based on cloud here. Again, all I'm watching is just when is the cloud the thinnest? When does this have the best chance for a bullish Kumo breakout, right? Now this thing has held this 500 level since May. So I'd be watching for anything above 500 in mid-October. Aave, anything above 450 in October. All these charts look messy, by the way, right? Like that kind of goes without saying. It's in the cloud. It's super volatile. It'll sneeze plus or minus 25% on any given day. But I like that we've held these levels for 7 months now. The biggest issue is the regulatory stuff potentially in the US through the SEC that may knock DeFi down. Hopefully that doesn't come in Q4 because the way things are set up, again, I think Q4 is going to be explosive. Maker at the 200 below the cloud. Again, this looks like nothing. This looks real bad actually compared to everything else. But again, if everything else does well in DeFi land, Maker's not going to be left out. It'll have a run. It may have less of a run than everything else, but it'll definitely have a run. SNX looks like Curve a little bit. It's moved up, not quite above the cloud, but this will probably move on the earlier side of things into mid-October, late October. Link, I take a different view on. Not so much near-term cloud stuff, but just multi-year trend. So it's held this pitchfork since 2019. Most recently, it dropped below. And if I put on the MA multiplier on top of this, kind of gives you a wider zone that's more dynamic of buy zone, sell zone. On the recent run up, it didn't quite reach the 5x multiple. It reached the midline. Currently, the midline is basically the pitchfork median line as well, which is around 75, let's say. So that's a 2x from here. I think that's pretty reasonable. Trend-wise, this thing looks okay. Band, much like the other DeFi charts, this will probably moves late October, early November, as far as the first signs of bullish continuation. And again, this thing has just like ranged for 7 months, right? Even longer actually. It's ranged for over a year at this point. So it's not unreasonable to think if this thing is bullish, it's going to have a move. I like, I don't know, 50, right? Maybe a 5x from here at this moment. What you don't want to see on these is any low time frame head and shoulders patterns. But even in September, that's fine, right? What I'm really paying attention to is October, late October for charts that look like this. But overall, this is a neutral mess, which is perfect for bullish continuation. CRX, same thing, neutral mess. Look to late October for a move. Start thinking about getting positioned into stuff like this. Now I like 10 for this, right? Just some multiple 5, 10, I don't know. Anything above 156 into November, probably, and we're good to go for higher highs there. 1 inch, same thing, just giant mess, right? Like there's no discernible trend here per se. It's bounced. You could argue macro inverted head and shoulders on 1 inch, but again, based on the cloud, I like late October. If this thing can hold above this 310 level, 310 to 5, that enough is a decent trade. And then from there, I like 5 to 10. Just a generic vanilla 2x into January 1st. And Melon looks like nothing else. It has a multi-month ascending triangle. It's holding this multi-month diagonal support. It's getting closer and closer and closer to eventually just breaking 130. I like this chart a lot. I think it looks good for bullish continuation. And lastly, I'll just mention the ETH and BTC fund as well as the DeFi portfolio. I trade for Techemy Capital on Yearn.Finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything including AUM, performance, allocation, all the yield plays I'm making here, as well as the trades in the trades tab down below. Someone was asking me, I think on Twitter, why I'm not getting yield on Ether BTC here, mainly because the yields are so low or were so low, it didn't even make sense for the fees to get in and out of those contracts. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.